the National Broadcasting Company. Now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Shea Stadium, it's the Montreal Expos versus the New York Mets. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft. Cold filtered draft beer. It's as real as it gets. By Mitsubishi Motors. Experience the sensation of the full line of new cars and trucks from Mitsubishi. By Armor All. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. And by Delta Airlines. Delta gets you there with care.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and welcome to Shea Stadium, the home of the world champion New York Mets, who have not exactly been acting like world champions, either on or off the field. They had enough problems during the month of April to have Davey Johnson call a meeting and blister out his troops. They also had the injury to Roger McDowell, and they had the sidelining of Dwight Gooden because he came under the influence of what they call controlled substance. Well, Dwight Gooden is back, although McDowell will still be on the list. What kind of an impact does it have on a New York Mets team that might still be a little raggedy, but they're winning? Well, we asked Gary Carter his reaction to the return of Dwight Gooden.
Well, having Dwight Gooden around the team means a great deal. He's a high-spirited young man. There's no question the success that he's endured so far in his just 3 years of his career. And he's just a great guy to be around. It's unfortunate some of the things that Doc has had to go through, but he's just a great guy to be around. He's a great guy to have on a team, and we're just glad he's back.
If ever a team could holler from one dugout to another, you think you have troubles, it should be the Montreal Expos. Hobbled by injuries, they lost their #1 player, Hubie Brooks, in the 3rd game of the season when he was hit on the wrist and suffered a broken wrist. However, a ray of sunshine for the Montreal Expos. On the other side of the Frank is the return of Tim Raines. For that story, let's go to Joe.
Well, when Tim Raines opted for free agency, it was like, I don't want to play in Montreal. How will he handle that? Tim, how will you handle that?
I think it'll be pretty easy to handle. I think, given the situation, the reasons why, because of a contract dispute, I think at the time I might have wanted to go somewhere else. But I think given the situation right now, I'd love to be back, and I'm happy to be back.
Have you had any reaction from the Montreal fans?
Well, not as yet, but I feel that I can't worry about that right now. I feel I have to go out and do my job and do the best possible job that I can to help the team win.
What kind of physical shape are you in?
I feel I'm in great shape. I've been working out for the last month and a half, every day, 2-a-day workouts. So as far as physical condition and mental, I feel I'm ready.
Thank you very much, Tim Raines.
So the cast of characters are in place. The story is yet to be written. Dwight Gooden will be in the Mets dugout watching. The Expos hope to be in their dugout watching Tim Raines. And we'll be looking at a rookie David Cone against a kid from Long Island pitching for Montreal. That'll be Neil Heaton. We'll get to the starting lineups and a lot more right after this.
It's real.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Lost 3 out of 5 on this road trip, and 2 straight. They find themselves 5 games back of the division-leading St. Louis Cardinals, and here's the way they stack up. It'll be Candy Candel in center field and Mitch Webster in right. Tim Raines will be in the starting lineup without any spring training. He'll be in left field, and Tim Wallach in the cleanup spot at third. Andres Galarraga, the big cat, will be at first base, and John Stefano behind the plate. Vance Law will be at second base, and Tom Foley at short. And the pitcher, a boy from Jamaica, New York, Neil Heaton, pitching for Montreal. Down in the New York Mets bullpen, loosening up, is rookie David Cone. He's a kid who came to New York in a deal with Kansas City that sent catcher Ed Hearn away. He made his big league debut as a starting pitcher, and it was a nightmare. It was the last time out against Houston. In 5 innings, he allowed 10 runs. 7 of them were earned. He struck out 3, walked a half a dozen, and for good measure had 2 wild pitches and 2 balks. That's about as tough a way for a kid to break in as I can think of.
It really is, Vin, and the expression that one of the players used, he said, I think Country Joe got him, which simply means that he was nervous, trying to impress. He wasn't himself. But when they describe Cone, they say he's got a live fastball, 90 plus, a big slider, a real good slider. He can drop down. He throws a split finger occasionally, and his curveball, he'll just show it to you. It's his fastball and his slider that he has to have if he's going to win.
The New York Mets are starting to get their act together. They have won 3 straight, 6 of their last 9. And as you see Bill Robinson swinging an imaginary bat, they are doing more than swinging imaginary bats. They hit 7 home runs in the 2 games so far against Montreal. They have hit 31 home runs during the year, and Davey Johnson has reason to look up because things are looking up for New York. The Mets, despite loss of Dwight Gooden and Roger McDowell, are 1 game back of the St. Louis Cardinals. And Davey was saying before the game that McDowell, who underwent a groin operation March 30th, would be back by the middle of May. There's Roger now. So he expects to have him back in 6 weeks, maybe ready to pitch. Gooden, of course, will probably take a couple of weeks longer.
The delay in the game, if you're wondering, was to let young Cohen finish his warm-up tosses. The umpires walked over there. They're ready. They've been out there, and Davey was explaining needs a couple more minutes. And here he comes in from the bullpen with pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre. Stottlemyre on the right of your screen.
David Cone, C-O-N-E, is 24 years old and born in Kansas City. In fact, born and raised there until dealt away in the Ed Hearn deal. He was converted from a starter to a reliever in the minor leagues last year. And now, of course, with Gooden out, he's been taken from the relief role and pushed back to being a starter. He missed the entire 1983 season due to a knee injury. He had a torn cartilage. After a wild pitch, he went to home plate to cover, and the runner got him.
You kind of have to like the kid because they asked him, do you feel, as we look at Dwight Gooden right there in the middle next to Ojeda, they asked Cohen, said, you know, it's going to be on national TV. You're going to be nervous? He said, I can't be any more nervous than I was. I can't have any more pressure than I had, so I'll be all right.
Well, Dwight Gooden has received a very warm reception from his teammates and from the media here in New York. It is now a question of him proving that he still has it.
Would you not agree, Vin, that the coverage of Dwight Gooden's workout was as detailed a coverage as you've ever seen?
Indeed it was, as we see the New York Mets taking the field.
There you see McReynolds in left field. Of course, he's the new one, having come over from the San Diego Padres, and he has surprised everybody with his ability. They can't understand why he hasn't been better known for his playing. But, of course, here in New York, he'll get the publicity if he has the year. Mookie Wilson is in center field, and Darryl Strawberry, a red-hot Strawberry, is in right field. And there you see the infield, and Tuffle is the man of the hour as far as the infielders are concerned. He hit the big home run last night to win the game. Gary Carter's having his problems behind the plate.
Just to put the teams in their position, as you can see, the Cardinals, who certainly suffered a tremendous injury in the loss of John Tudor, as well as having Tommy Hergo on the DL. But Whitey Herzog's gang playing great ball, and they're still atop the heap last night, coming from behind and winning eventually in 10 innings over the Dodgers 5-4. The Mets hanging tough, waiting for McDowell and Gooden to get back in position. So they're actually in a good spot considering what they have gone through in the month of April, being 1 back. The Cubs are a team you can't get a flavor for yet. They don't win at home. They win on the road. Well, we'll see what happens to Chicago. But as they try and feel for exactly what kind of a club they are, they're 2 back. Pittsburgh, a little surprising. They took 2 out of 3 from Los Angeles, and they knocked off San Francisco last night. Montreal hobbled by injuries. At one stage, it looked as if half of Canada was on the DL. They had Hubie Brooks, Jeff Reed, they had Tim Burke, Bryn Smith, and Mike Fitzgerald all on the DL, and Brooks and Reed are still there. So they're really not doing that badly at 5-back. And the Phillies have to be the big question. Why are they 6-back? If you're in Philadelphia, you know, but that's where they are for the moment. The other side of the Frank, as we called it in the opening, one, the reemergence of Dwight Gooden, and now, of course, the return of Tim Raines. And is he ready, Joe? How can a guy be ready if he hasn't been even in spring training?
Well, I talked to Bobby Winkles, one of the coaches of the Montreal Expos, and Tim has been doing aerobics, he said, oddly enough, with the ladies class in the morning, and then he's been taking, there's Bobby, taking batting practice every day at Palmetto High School in Florida, and the coach has been pitching to him. Of course, live pitching is what you have to see.
Didn't you find it interesting? You know, here's a player who's going to get $1.6 million a year and has missed a month, and evidently they not only did not dock him a month's pay, but if I read the story correctly in the paper, he actually got a $200,000 raise.
Vin, to get into the negotiations is mind-boggling.
I know.
I tell you, you think that's a great deal? I heard of a ball player had in his contract so much for winning MVP all the way down the line to 10. If he doesn't get any vote at all, the club gives him $100,000 because he didn't make it.
He maintained his amateur standing.
Right. So I'm telling you, it's a game of lawyers and agents.
Candy Candel, Mitch Webster, and Tim Raines ready to try David Cohn. Candel is a pretty hot hitter. In the last 10 games or so, he's hit better than .340 to get his average up to where it is. And he's a fellow who plays all three outfield positions and second base. 0-1. Candy, a switch hitter. He'll play center field, left field, and he's played 5 games at second base for Montreal. 2-0. There is a big difference between these two teams, and it is in power. The Mets have hit 31 home runs. The Expos have hit 13. Right. 2-1. Candy is not a power hitter. In fact, in 4 years of professional ball, he has muscled 4 home runs. 3-1. His mother, as we look at David Cohn, 3-1 to Casey Candel. Ball 4. Casey's mother, a native of Vancouver, was a professional baseball player in the 40s and 50s, and she was recently the subject of a documentary film. How'd you like it? You come home and you say, hey, Mom, I'm getting jammed all the time.
And I'll tell you something. I saw that picture of her in Sports Illustrated. She got a pretty good swing, great follow-through, and she could help him hit.
Mitch Webster, followed by Tim Raines. Yeah, times have changed. You talk about somebody having a good swing, and you mean a hitter. Webster, another switch hitter, so Rogers has a little weapons up at the very top. And Mitch did very well here in this ballpark last year. In fact, he had the highest batting average of any visiting player at Shea. He almost hit .390.
Bob Rogers, the manager, said that Mitch Webster had the best game of his career last night. He hit a home run, and then he dragged the ball to keep an inning going. He made some good plays at shortstop. He was really singing his praises.
Rogers also has to be thrilled. Mitch Webster did something you don't see very often anymore. He stole home earlier this year against the Phillies. Fouls it away.
Ben, I'd like to point out this infield here at Shea Stadium is just absolutely gorgeous. Talked to Pete Flynn, the head groundkeeper, and not only the grass, the dirt part is all new. It's beamed clay. It's firm. It doesn't clump. There's no dust, and I tell you, players love it.
1-1 to count to Candy Candel. Well, talking about a field, it's interesting with a fellow like Mitch Webster. He led the National League last year in triples, but all of them were on artificial turf. And now young David Cohn, who was wild in his debut, he walked 6, remember, against Houston as a starter. He's walked the first batter, and he's behind 2-1.
Bob Rogers likes to play hit and run. He doesn't steal much, but when you got a kid out there that's wild, it makes it a little tough.
2 balls, 1 strike. And there goes Candel, a pitch inside, the throw down, tagged him on the head in time. It looked like Casey had the base stolen. Pretty good tag by Johnson to get him on the helmet.
And that's why you hate to run someone. You see him look back. It was a hit-and-run play, and Webster didn't give him any help. And Johnson just does nick him right there. It was a missed sign, obviously, because you could see the base runner looking back.
So Casey Candell is hung out. Meanwhile, Mitch Webster pops it up into shallow left. Coming in is Kevin McReynolds. And just like that, 2 down in the first inning. Among other things, the Expos, without power, forced to run. And they have done well. They've been stealing 80% of their bases, but not that time against Carter. San Diego, a troubled ball club. They hadn't been able to manufacture any kind of an offense, and they're leading the Cubs 1-0. Well, here he is, Tim Raines. He played that game in Class A. They played a 6-inning game where he led off every inning. He went 4 for 6, and he had 3 stolen bases, and that's the only baseball he's really played. And he promptly drives it into right, and Strawberry going over. It's against the wall. Tim Raines to second, and he's going to go for 3. Strawberry's throw, and the National League batting champion has come back with a vengeance.
I got to tell you, spring training is very important. You got to go to spring training, or you can't be in shape, man. You miss spring training, you're in deep trouble. He missed the home run by just a couple of feet. You could see he was going to jump on the first pitch. It was a strike. He thought it was a home run. He sees it hit the fence, so he says, well, I better shift gears here. And he's got himself a 3-base hit.
So an electrifying at-bat for Tim Raines to return after being out for over a month, contractual problems with Montreal, and he tripled. I wonder, however, just how much publicity Raines will get in the Montreal papers tomorrow. You know why? Tonight, the 7th game of the Stanley Cup's quarterfinal fits Quebec versus Montreal. Don't think that rivalry will get an awful lot of ink, but maybe they'll mention Raines' triple. Breaking ball to Tim Wallach, ball 1.
Well, of course, with his new contract, if they don't give publicity, he could buy those papers and see you.
Publish his own. 1 ball, no strikes to Tim. And he loops one to right. Strawberry coming up for it. He's there. So the gamble to play hit and run. And Candell thrown out. Frustrates Montreal, and they lead Raines at third. Here's the lineup for the world champion New York Mets. Mookie Wilson in center field and Tim Tuffle at second base. Keith Hernandez at first and Gary Carter hitting in the number 4 slot behind the plate. Darryl Strawberry in right field and Kevin McReynolds in left. Howard Johnson playing shortstop. Rafael Santana has a sore left shoulder. Sliding in head first, he jammed it. He's a day or 2 away, although he could play if pressed to service today. So Howard Johnson is the shortstop. Dave Magadan at third base, and David Cohn the pitcher. Neil Heaton has won 3 straight, a 7-game winner, and here are the boys behind him.
Raines, Candell, Webster in the outfield, Wallach, Foley, Law, Galarraga, good feeling first baseman, and Stefano behind the plate. Neil Heaton on the mound.
Mookie Wilson, who's been playing very well, the switch hitter, and for the last 2 weeks that he's played, he's hit over 380. Remember last year, Mookie was hit in the eye coming out of spring training. That set him way back. Now he has given Lenny Dykstra quite a battle for the job. Dykstra is hitting about 100 points less. A busted bat and a flare down the line, foul. And a good chunk of the bat went right on by the mound.
Heaton, and this is a scouting report, Heaton has an above-average fastball, a sinking fastball, changes speeds on both his fastball and his curveball. Sliders above average, good control. I'm telling you, I'm saying pretty good record.
You know, he was originally drafted by the New York Mets in 1979. And as I understand it, he wanted a $100,000 bonus to sign. And although the Mets liked him, they didn't think he was worth the $100,000 bonus. So he didn't sign. He went on to the University of Miami and was eventually picked up and signed by the Cleveland Indians. Montreal needed a left-hander desperately because Joe Hesketh came up with a bad shoulder and finally had to have surgery. Foul ball. Although the story is that Montreal called George Bamberger and said to Bamberger, "Do you like Heaton?" And George supposedly said, "Yeah, I like Heaton." And that was the end of the conversation. Then he found out that they had traded Jeff Reardon for Heaton, and George said, "I like Heaton, but I didn't like him that much." 2 and 2.
The other story say that?
Yeah, the other story said that they had the choice. They could have had Mike Smithson or Blurt Lylevin or Heaton, and they took Heaton. So we'll see how it works out. I think they took him, as I say, because Heskett was scrapped. Chopper to first. Galarraga will bring it to the bag. 1 away. Coming up now is last night's hero, Tim Tuffle. It was in the bottom of the 9th inning with the score tied. Bob McClure, the pitcher, and Tuffle turned the lights out on him. For McClure, 3 home runs in less than 2 innings. For Tuffle, the big home run and the Mets victory. It was Tuffle's first home run, and he has a half a dozen RBIs. What he's been doing, and it's so important with Hernandez, Carter, and Strawberry hitting back of him, he's been getting on base a lot. In fact, almost 50% of the time now.
He's on a new weight training program, too, that has really helped him, Tuffle.
1-0. Ball 2. So Tim Tuffle trying to get aboard with 1 out. Keith Hernandez on deck. No score. Kind of a weepy day in New York, but not raining now. Ball 3. The temperature here in New York, 62, and the humidity around 90%. And the weatherman says there's a 50% chance of beautiful weather. Well, what he really said was there's 50% chance of showers, but let's look the other way. So Tuffle draws the walk, and that will bring up Keith Hernandez. They had a 13-game hitting streak snapped last night. Amazing what he's done. With that streak, he has doubled his average. He was hitting 143, and he just doubled it. He also had a home run streak. He had hit home runs in 3 straight games. Hernandez, of course, a marvelous all-around player. 9 straight Gold Gloves at first base. So Tuffle at first. 1 out in the first inning. No score. Ball 1. Hernandez is the type player who hits better with men on base, and certainly one reason is this kind of a situation. He can pull, and you have a first baseman on the bag, so the whole right side of the infield is wide open. But as you can see, he is not living up to his previous record. Last year, he hit better than 330 with men on. Right.
He's very meticulous in that batter's box. Watch him when he gets set with the bat, how he'll check his grip. I mean, he really literally checks it. And see his eyes go right down there. Right there.
1-1. On the inside corner, a little slider. 1-2 the count. Neil Heaton working on Keith Hernandez with Tim Tuffle at first. 1 out.
You might note that Galarraga's got that right thumb wrapped. He's got a very badly swollen thumb, the big first baseman. It's hurt him in the batter's box, but Puck Rogers needs him. There you see it wrapped up.
Galarraga, who figures to provide a lot of power, has just 1 home run, and it's all because of that bad hand. Waved at it. So a good pitch. Neil Heaton throws a spinner, and down goes Hernandez.
Rogers says that Galarraga's second to Hernandez as far as fielding. That's pretty good praise.
Oh, I should say. Gary Carter coming up with 2 out and Tuffle at first base. And, of course, there's always a little extra interest when Carter plays against Montreal. Gary, of course, first started his big league career. And there's the balk charged to Heaton. And Tuffle to second base.
Right there. There you see it. Right there. I mean, that was as flagrant as you can get it.
Brought his hands together, dropped them, and all the while, that left foot stayed on the rubber. In there for a strike, going one. Gary Carter first came to Montreal in 1974 and was originally an outfielder. He was with the Expos from 1974 through 1984. One ball, one strike.
I used to always worry about a pitcher when he made a balk like that because it's just simply lack of concentration. I mean, you know, he's standing there and he's going to go into his move. I mean, it's not like he's trying to make a quick pitch or a tricky move to first base. He just started up and all of a sudden he decides to stop.
Would it be sometimes he's having trouble reading the signs?
Then he should back off.
Yeah, but I mean without thinking, and
Yeah,
so he's
could
having
be.
trouble and it just breaks it.
But watching him give the signs, they're only flashing one with nobody at second base. He just, I don't know, maybe did what Lefty Gomez did. He was checking planes.
See, they're letting him blow on his hand, and it's a nice day in the 60s. Surprised. One ball, one strike. And that's hit to shallow center. Here comes Candell, and he'll put it away. So they leave Tuffle at second base, and we have one inning in the book. The Expos nothing, and the Mets nothing.
Back about 20 yards.
1 year ago, you might remember, in the third weekend, the Mets swept the Cardinals 4 straight, won 11 in a row. Montreal was playing well. Montreal stayed in second place on the heels of the Mets until the 24th of May last year. They eventually are going to wind up 9 games over 500 and 29 and a half out. Now, 1 year later, the Cardinals, despite the loss of Tudor and Her, are in first place. The Mets, despite the loss of Gooden and McDowell, are just one back. Montreal, who had 9 on the DL last year, started off this year with 5 on the DL, and so they're still struggling, and they are 5 games back, 1 out of the cellar. Andre Galarraga, the big cat, but he has a sore paw and consequently 1 home run. He'll do a lot better than that when that hand gets better. And he fists one, a one-hopper into right field. So a modest thing in thine own, but it's a single to right for Galarraga.
And that didn't help his thumb any, I'll tell you, because he got a jam. You can see. Tuffle gives it a good effort, but I mean, it was really a handle job, hitting the right spot. Doesn't hurt quite as much when you get a base hit, but you can see he felt it.
And the batter is John Stefaro, and you're saying to yourself, where did I hear that name? I saw that name in the headlines in a big story last year. You're absolutely right. It was John Stefaro who hit the line drive that hit Roger Clemens on the elbow in Roger's last start of the year. Because that's a great claim to fame, isn't it? John Stefaro. Meanwhile, Texas, even though they lost last night, having a 6-game winning streak snap, they come right back, and it's a questionable Dave Stieb against knuckleballer Charlie Huff. John hit his first National League home run Thursday night against Rick Aguilera. 2 balls and no strikes. Stefaro, and I guess it's like every catcher, John has had his share of problems. He had a cracked kneecap in 1984. He had surgery on his right hand in 1985. In a game against the Yankees last year, he was struck on the side of the head by Dave Winfield's bat as he was following through on a swing. But you catchers, you just survive and thrive on that.
Survive and thrive. And they're still underpaid.
2-2 the count of John Stefaro. He'll be followed by Vance Law. We're in the second inning. No score. The Expos and the Mets. I don't know how anybody ever catches.
It's not that tough a position. It really is.
High pop fly. Tim Tuffle is there. I guess, and I don't mean to put them down either, but why does someone take up the bass fiddle or the tuba? I guess they're frustrated catchers.
Well, you can go back to the neighborhood, Vin. I mean, you fell into a pattern. The fat kid was always the catcher. You know that. The left-hander was the first baseman. The kid who couldn't play, you tried to stick him in right field. And that's how you start. But it really is a safe position, the catcher, because you're protected. You very rarely run into walls. Collisions, yes, you get small injuries, but you don't get that serious injury like the infielder with the bad hop or an outfielder.
Here's Vance Law. 1 ball and no strikes. Law, surprisingly, with those 4 home runs. I mean, he's not that kind of a hitter. And when you realize that the Expos have only 13 and he has 4 of them, it's shocking. Give you an idea, he hit his 4th home run in the middle of August last year. The runner goes. They play hit and run, and he tried to take him to right field and fouled it off. 1-1.
That's what he does best, and he really gave the third base coach, Jackie Moore, a good chance to go through a whole bunch of signals. Jackie's one of those busy coaches, too.
The first base coach for Montreal is Ron Hansen, and we ought to give him equal time because he belongs in the trivia book for sure. 1 ball and 1 strike. Right. Ron Hansen, the first base coach for Montreal, he made the last unassisted triple play in the major leagues. July of 1968, playing for Washington against Cleveland. Unassisted triple play.
That's something, isn't it?
Oh, boy. Ground ball hard into right field. Base hit. Galarraga will hold on. It's a funny, quick shot as Galarraga was hitting the bag. Howard Johnson was holding his hands up. It looked like Howard Johnson was telling him to stop at second, but he was actually just giving Strawberry a target to hit.
And I'll tell you, Strawberry, he had the trigger. He had his finger on the trigger. He's ready to make the throw, and Galarraga would have been out easily. Now you see Galarraga, see the plays in front of him, and there's Howard Johnson trying to set himself up, but Galarraga is already stopped.
Galarraga said, "Thanks, coach." So 2 on with 1 out, and Tom Foley, the young infielder, fouled away. Tom Foley, for 8 years, was in the Reds organization. He was traded twice in 2 years, from the Reds to the Phils and the Phils to the Expos. He had a big night last night. 3 for 3, including a home run, 3 ribbies. They even walked him twice. 1 ball, 1 strike. Foley last year was filling in as the Montreal infield fell apart. He had so many injuries to Brooks, Wallach, and Law. He was all over the place. He only hit 1 home run last year. 2-1. He finds Andres Galarraga at second, Vance Law at first. 1 out in the 2nd inning. No score. On deck, Neil Heaton. And there's one hit down the left field line, a base hit, dying in the thick grass. Galarraga will store. Foley's gone to second base, and he's in there, and stopping at third is Law. And the Expos lead 1-0 on a double to left by Tom Foley.
That's really a good piece of hitting. He just stroked it. McReynolds comes up with it, fires hard into second base, but Foley running all the way. It's not even close.
You know how you talk about breaking in the big leagues. Tom Foley had a strange way to break in. Before he took his position in his first major league game, he had already batted twice in the 1st inning. They batted around in the first game he ever played. Well, he just doubles. Vance Law is at third with 1 out, and the Mets pull up the corners. Keith Hernandez and Dave Magadan. Strike. So David Cohn having his problems here. 2 singles and a double. Heaton has 2 hits this year. Little roller foul. 0-2.
I tell you, during batting practice, he didn't get cheated out of his swings. He was hitting and took a lot of hitting and hit some balls hard. Of course, the big equalizer is the curveball. You just saw him foul it off.
Heaton was such a big man on campus at the University of Miami that they retired his number. College baseball, that's quite an honor. Slow curve, chopped to the Gold Glove at first base. End of story. 2 down, runners holding.
A routine play for Hernandez. There's nothing for him to do but look at the runner and say, well, if you go, I got you easy. It'd be a nice out. And then, of course, he steps on the bag. And just like they tell you in the Spalding Guide, page 89.
So with 2 down, runners at second and third, Casey Candell coming up. Switch hitter, walked in the first inning. Didn't have much of a hack at that one. He is also not having his hacks with people in scoring position, and that's where he is right now. Second and third. 1-0 Expos, second inning. One ball, 1 strike. David Cone, 2 singles and a double, trying to get out of it cheaply enough. And there's hit down the left field line. McReynolds fading, and the ball will go back into the seats out of play.
Usually Gary Carter behind the plate with his pitchers will either indicate after he gives the signal, or he'll move around with the glove for a target. But with young Cohen, he's just putting that glove, so far at least, right down the middle of the plate, as if to say, throw strikes. Let's not get cute. Just throw strikes.
Candell, who went to school at the University of Arizona, he was a big man on campus there, fouls it away. State of Arizona figures prominently then with Casey from the university and Bobby Winkles, who coached against him coach at Arizona State. And of course, Joe, you know all about that situation.
You know, I managed the U of A this year, and I'm 1-0.
Is that right? 1-0.
I managed against him.
Fouled away. Forfeit?
No. Oh. I had the alumni, the former major leaguers, and we won.
Nice going.
We had one sign. Hit. That's all. Jerry Kendall down there. We always bring one guy back for that game. It was great. All the guys come back that played there. It's great.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Casey Candell. On the fist, and Hernandez left the bag. It might make it close. Just did get him. Keith Hernandez started to go after the ball and almost took himself out of position, and he just did get back, and it's 1-0 Montreal.
Here's the play again. Watch Hernandez start for the ball, as he does for everything, and then he realizes, whoops, the pitcher's not going to cover. He stops. But now, when Tupple gets the ball, watch the stride by Candell. Look at there. Just does get him, and Candell really reaching out, trying to beat that play. That was very, very close.
Candell, by the way, is only 5'9", so when you see him make a stride like that, he is really stretching out. However, Casey is nipped, and we go into the bottom of the second. 1-0 Expos, and here's Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry, for the last week, has been hitting almost .350. And in the Mets' 21 games, he's chimed in 18 of them. Ground ball to Galarraga. 1 away.
Then you mentioned the size of Candell. Did you see the quote by Dykstra? It's a new expression where Dykstra's a small guy, too. And when he made a great leaping catch, he said, I had to go full height to get it.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. Full height.
Full height. Well, that's why the Pittsburgh Pirates are getting a lot of good-natured teasing. They have 4 men who are 5'8" or under. And Rich Donnelly said, yeah, they signed an endorsement with Buster Brown's shoes. Here's Kevin McReynolds.
Sound like that old Pittsburgh club I was on.
Comebacker, and hardly a swing at all. Kevin disgusted with himself on that. He was really cheated. You wait to have 4 hacks up there, and then you get one like that. That's like coming in late for the game. 2 down. And Howard Johnson, who has already figured in the game rather prominently. Remember, he made that fine tag on Casey Candell. Just did get him on top of the helmet. And then an out later, Tim Raines tripled. But it's still 1-0 and still at least 2-0. last 10 at-bats hitting right-handed. He's gone 5 for 10. And that's not been his strength. His strength with the bat basically as a left-handed batter. Hojo. Bottom of the second, 1-0 Montreal. And a check swing, and he really jammed him, and that's foul. 0-2.
That's always an indication of how your pitch, how alive it is. And Heaton, he does have the good slider, and it's a hard slider, and you can see he tries to check it. Whoops.
It's particularly impressive considering how he did a number on Kevin McReynolds. Back-to-back hitters. 0-2. And that's hit down the left field line. Foul.
And he was fooled on that pitch. He took a half swing, and that ball went 3/4 of the way down. Players are convinced, again, that the ball is really alive, wound tighter than ever. And you'll hear that, but there was a half swing. Fooled again, and he hit it hard.
No balls and 2 strikes. Dave Magadan on deck. Ooh, well, now, there's a 90-mile-an-hour to blow him out. And at the end of 2, Montreal 1, Mets nothing. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
With Tim Raines back in our ball club, and first of all, it means the National League batting champion is now again playing for the Montreal Expos. Gives us better team speed, and with Hubie Brooks out, it gives us a lot more offense in the lineup.
Indeed, he does. In his first at-bat in 1987, Tim Raines walked up and hit the right field wall for a triple. Mitch Webster flied to left in the first inning. And promptly bangs it, but right at Strawberry, and it almost took off on him. Darrell reacting nicely to haul it in. That ball was hit hard like a 2-iron.
2-iron? What do you know about a 2-iron?
I mean the big guys,
Okay.
not me. I use a 2-iron to retrieve balls from under a bush.
Okay. That ball really was hit knuckled out there. Raines hit the first pitch his first time up, and with Webster hitting the first pitch, you kind of tend to doubt that he'll jump on it again, but you can bet that Carter will keep that in mind, and then you know that's what Carter's needling him about. Lay off all those weeks, and then boom, triple.
It's 1-0 Expos. They've had 2 singles, a double, and a triple, but only 1 run. Ball 1. One of the things we've heard about young David Cone, and we ought to take a look at his delivery, especially from that side. We want to see what he does with his right arm. 1 ball, no strikes. Fastball, ball 2. There are those who have seen him in the minor leagues who say that David hooks the ball. And when you hook or bend that arm prematurely in the delivery, you put a great strain on the arm. And the question is, he's a brilliant youngster. Will he be able to survive hooking the ball? Let's see if we can spot it.
You can see it right there.
Yeah.
There it is, right there when he does that.
Well, there are some people who worry about his longevity because of that. That's a strike. But as far as throwing, he's in the 90s. He's got a wonderful arm.
I guess Sutcliffe would be the best example of a guy who hooks the ball.
And how?
Hasn't hurt him too much.
3-1. Grounded foul, 3-2. We have 1 out in the third. Raines tripled in the first inning, but it came after Candell had been thrown out attempting to steal, so the Expos came up empty.
Hooking the ball is like a hitch in the swing. If you're winning, it helps you. And if you're losing, it's going to hurt you.
And Raines is aboard, so that'll put a little more heat on David Cone. So he's given up 4 hits and 2 walks, but only 1 run. And now Tim Wallach coming up. Wallach has a bad ankle. Of course, he had a bad ankle last year, and then he aggravated the ankle going after an extra base hit as he tried to pivot and backhand a ball at third base. He had a fracture of the ankle, and he also fractured his toe for good measure last year. Tim Wallach, in each of his last 7 years in the big leagues, Wallach has hit more home runs on the road than at home. A lot of people say, well, because it's so cold up there in Montreal. Well, now they have the roof on Olympic Stadium. There goes Raines. Pitch outside. Carter's throw. he's in there. What a way to come back.
Well,
Triple and steal. Huh.
You knew it was going to be a matter of time, and Gary actually, I think he puts the pitch out on. He gets a good ball to handle. One hands it, but Tim Raines is going to let everybody know, hey, I'm ready. That was a straight steal. I mean a straight steal. He never once looked back.
2 balls and no strikes with Raines at second. 1 out. 1-0 Montreal, and there's a high fly ball to left field. It appears playable, and Kevin McReynolds is there. And holding at second is Tim Raines. And the batter will be Andres Galarraga, the first baseman. We were talking before about Wallach hitting more home runs on the road than at home and saying it's cold in Montreal. One of life's ironies, they have finally put a roof on top of Olympic Stadium. They've been waiting 10 years to put it on. The day they put the roof on and they played baseball that day, it was 84 in Montreal. 84. But it'll come in handy. Galarraga single to right in the second inning. Remember, he has that bad hand. Now back. The count to Galarraga. John Stefaro on deck. I read a line in the paper talking about that roof in Montreal, that when they put the roof on, they said no smoking in the stadium. The interesting thing is, a great portion of the proceeds to buy the roof and install it was from a cigarette tax.
That doesn't mean you should smoke, though.
No. Oh, no. 1 ball, 1 strike. Little foul. 1-2. A couple of scores for you. See what's going on other places. Texas out in front of Toronto. Oda B. McDowell. Boy, Texas now is okay. Oda B. McDowell, remember, things were going so bad. They had the welcome home luncheon. He tried to cut a roll at the luncheon and proceeded to cut his hand. They put 8 stitches in the hand. And so it's his first home run since opening day. San Diego leading the Cubs 1-0 in the 4th. That's where Bobby Valentine took the chain letter out. Did you read that?
Yeah.
1-2 to Andres Galarraga. You know those chain letters where you get in the mail and they tell you to send 20 copies and good fortune will come to you. And Valentine got a chain letter, threw it in a drawer. And it's good to see Buck Rogers. Tell you why. Finally, things went so bad for Texas, and when Oda B. McDowell cut his hand at lunch, there's a base hit, and that's going to get Raines in, and it's going to be 2-0 Montreal. So Valentine got 20 copies made, sent 1 copy to each National League manager. That means Buck Rogers got one. Then to some friends of his, and Texas went on to win 6 in a row. John Stefaro coming up. So for a guy with a bad hand, Galarraga's 2 for 2.
He hit that one off the end of the bat, but he's so strong he just muscled it out there. The other one he hit off the thumb. He's not hit the ball solidly, but he's got 2 base hits and one. He scored a run. He's got an RBI.
I think he just bought. Yep.
Had 2 in the last game, and he, by his own admission, said it really unnerved him, and they're going to go in and talk to him now. Hernandez was in there first to try to put out whatever fire may be in the little youngster's mind, and Gary Carter's there. Let's see if we can see it. Call it right away. What'd he do? He had the ball in his glove. I couldn't see anything.
Now, it might have been his front leg where he leaned. I'm not sure. That's a strike to John Stefaro, who popped up in the second inning. 2-0 Expos. We're in the third inning. Remember, they have lost the first 2 games of the series. The Mets have won 3 in a row and 6 out of 9. Also, you realize that Davy Johnson is sitting there thinking, but for the grace of circumstance, my pitcher out there would be Dwight Gooden, not David Cohn. And that's sliced to left field, sinking at the feet of McReynolds, and and he knocks it down is all he could do, and the run is in. It is 3-0 in favor of Montreal. It was really a shock to Davy Johnson and a proud championship Mets club. They had the worst ERA in the league after 3 weeks.
The stolen base has come home to haunt. The balk has come home to haunt. So the Expos really cashing in with the little things.
3 runs on a half a dozen hits. Breaking ball missed to Vance Law. Ball 1. 1-0. And hold everything. Mel Stottlemyre will go out and try and counsel the young right-hander. Tim Raines, meanwhile, getting some high fives and fists in the dugout.
That's the kind of thing you can't measure on a ball club, just what he means.
That's Mitch Webster he started doing it with. Now he's moving along the way. What are you talking about? A guy coming back, huh? Triple in the first inning, walk, steal second, and score a run in the third.
Terry Leach is in the bullpen. He was rained out of a scheduled start Tuesday night. In fact, they said rained out, didn't hardly rain between 1 and 3. They thought the pitching was in such bad shape they'd call it.
1 ball, no strikes. That missed. Leach has been great in 5 relief appearances. In fact, I guess he's putting a lot of heat on Doug Sisk. Been unscored in his last 4 games. Ball 3. Of course, that really has been the Mets' problem. When you get down to what you would call Roger McDowell country, somewhere around the 7th inning on, they haven't had him, and he is sorely missed. Well, there's ball 4, so young David Cone is really struggling now. 3 walks, a half a dozen hits, 3 runs. He is fortunate he is not facing a club that can really put a haymaker on him. In other words, the Mets know that Montreal right now certainly is just a ball club that nibbles. They only have 13 home runs.
I think the thing that concerns Davey is that the problem that David Cone finds himself in, he put himself in. The base on balls to Raines, the stolen base, the block. Galarraga didn't hit the ball hard. Stefano did, but it's those little things. You can't give a ball club those kind of opportunities and not expect to get hurt.
Well, here's Tom Foley now, who doubled in the 2nd inning. He went to left field, if you remember. And he hits a fastball up in the air, and it'll be Gary Carter. And that's it. So he's out of it cheaply enough. The Expos do get to him for 2, and at the end of 2.5 innings, Expos 3, Mets nothing. Not too long ago, Mitch Webster was at third base for Montreal against Philadelphia. Lance Parrish was returning the ball to Joe Cowley, and as he flipped it back to the mound, Webster took off and stole home. And I was wondering, you ever have that happen to you?
I never had that happen to me, but it can happen, and once it happens to somebody else, I'm sure every catcher in both leagues read about it and said, I'm going to be watching, because you do take it for granted a lot of times. You just throw it back to the pitcher, and you can be in trouble.
And, of course, the way things were going for him in the early going in Philadelphia, Lance Parrish is probably saying, oh, great, of all the catches, it had to happen to me. One ball and no strikes. Dave Magadan leading off, followed by David Cone and then Mookie Wilson. High foul off third and slicing out of play. Magadan was sidelined a great portion of spring training with an arm infection. And for Dave, in 3 years in the minor leagues, he had just 1 home run. David Cohen waiting his turn on deck. So Magadan, with 1 home run in 3 years, has already hit 2 home runs in the big leagues. In fact, he only has 3 hits, and they're all extra base hits. 2 home runs and a double. Foul ball.
That hit a very expensive camera along the first base line. photographer's checking it. There you see that big zoom lens, and boy, he's looking right into it. It's the guy on the end, a telephoto lens. Zoom is in television. I forgot.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Dave Magadan. And he strokes it to center, base hit. The youngster is a cousin and godson of Yankee manager Lou Piniella. He'll make his godfather proud with that base hit to center. Hit number 1 against Neil Heaton. Of course, we should point out that Magadan's 2 home runs this year have been against left-hand pitching, so he hangs in there very well.
It was a very slow off-speed pitch. Why would you do that with the pitcher coming up next with the kind of stuff that Heaton's got? You don't want to fool him. You want to get him out. Now they're looking bunt. Obviously, Wallach is in very close at third. He's going to have to bunt it to Galarraga if he's going to get him over.
Expos 3, Mets nothing in the 3rd inning. And he got the bunt down. And Neil Heaton has to flip to Vance Law covering, and the sacrifice works. So they leave it up to Wilson and Tuffle to pick up Magadan.
The infield grass really good to bunt on because it's a bit high and it holds the ball, and it was a good bunt. Artificial surface, well, you got your problems, but here that was good.
Mookie Wilson, a switch hitter batting right-handed, and what's interesting about this is with a runner at second base, Mookie does not have an RBI this year when batting right-handed. So let's see what he does with this. No balls and 1 strike to Mookie Wilson. Tim Tuffle on deck. One ball and 1 strike to count.
If you never saw Mookie Wilson, as we look at Magadan, and you see him moving that bat that much, you'd say to yourself, well, let's give him fast stuff. Maybe we can catch him between one of the waves, because he's constantly waving that bat. See it?
And he hits a slow roll, a tricky hop. And that was a good play by Tom Foley. That was not that easy a play. The ball hit something and veered slightly to his right. Might throw off your rhythm, but he handled it.
Well, infield coach Ron Hansen was saying the infield is slow but rough, and you can see right here, hits the grass, and it's a tough play for Foley, but I tell you, he gets him in good shape. Good throw.
As they say, they're always talking about great hands for an infielder, but all baseball people will tell you, you have to have great feet. You have to be able to adjust. And Foley adjusted nicely, and so now here's Tim Tuffle, who walked in the 1st inning. Continues to get on base. Off speed, good pitch. He gave him a lot of arm fluff and then a soap bubble.
You don't think that they remember that home run he hit off McClure with the fastball on the 1st pitch?
And that's hit down the right field line, slicing, fair ball. So the run is in, and Tuffle is into second base with a double, and the Expos lead 3-1. So Tim Tuffle gets the Mets into the ball game, doubling in Magadan, and now here's Keith Hernandez, who struck out in the 1st inning. The Mets, of course, an incredible ball club last year, won 108 games and eventually went on to win everything in sight. Ground ball to first. Galarraga takes it to the bag, and the inning is over. 1 run, 2 hits, and Tuffle left at second, and at the end of 3, Expos 3, Mets 1. If you were 24 and from Kansas City and your name was David Cohn, would you be more nervous pitching in New York and on national television, or pitching while being watched by the man you're replacing in the rotation, Dwight Gooden?
It's a tough spot for the youngster. I'll say this. If you saw the pregame show, you heard Dwight Gooden's statement. The official statement from the ball club is that chances of successfully readjusting is maximized if the stress on Dwight is minimized, which means they've done everything but put plexiglass around him. You can't get to him. They're really protecting him.
Neil Heaton, who has pretty good swings up there at the plate, taking for a strike, 0-1. Neil grounded out to Keith Hernandez in the second inning. Then Candell and Webster. Fouled right into the mask of the plate umpire, Ed Montague.
Boy, he took a good shot, but he's straight on. Look at that head. Now he's straight on. Didn't even move until it hit him. If there is such a thing, Vin, it was perfect for getting hit with the ball.
Bless the iron. 0-2 to Neil Heaton. We're in the fourth inning. 3-1 Montreal, or as they say up there, Montréal, La Belle Provence, Quebec. We were talking before about Montreal and Quebec playing in the quarterfinals of the Stanley Cup. There's a bouncer backhanded by David Cone, puts him away. And of course, the New York Islanders are involved with the Philadelphia Flyers in a similar situation.
Really had to reach for it, because in his follow-through, he was towards first base. Makes the play easily once he comes up with it.
One down. It has not been easy for David Cone. He had a walk and a triple against him in the first inning, but got out of it unscathed. Gave up 2 singles and a double for a run in the second. Gave up some walks, a couple of base hits, a balk and a stolen base, and survived the third.
I think I'd be looking for an bunt attempt right about here, just on general principles, Vin.
All right. Well, we'll see about Casey Candell laying one down. Hot hitter in about his last 10 games. 1-1. Candell, quite a scrapper at 5'9". Buck Rogers likes him very much. He might even be a little bit of a Lenny Dykstra type. He's 5'9", 160, and he is from California. There's a hopper, flagged by Tim Tuffle, who throws him out. Nice play by Tim to backhand a bouncer up the middle.
I tell you, Candell's had a tough day losing base hits the last time up. You remember, it looked like he was going to beat it out when Hernandez broke and broke back. Now this one, ball well hit. Tuffle has to go 3 steps, has to really throw hard, because Candell gets that line down that line in pretty good shape. But once again, they get him.
So 2 down in the fourth inning, and here is Mitch Webster. And he was the fellow we told you about a few moments ago, stealing home as Lance Parrish was returning the ball to the mound. And he lifts one into left center. McReynolds and Wilson, and it will be McReynolds. So it's an easy inning, and the first one for him today as David Cone retires the side in order thanks to Tuffle, and it's 3-1 Montreal.
His left foot moved, but I didn't see his right.
Boy, that's hard.
That is.
Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and Kevin McReynolds in the bottom of the fourth inning. Carter flied to center in the first inning. Gary's 0 for 1. One ball and no strikes.
Gary's trying everything. He was taping bats before the game. I said, hey, don't you know that's obsolete? You're supposed to use pine tar. He said, when I tape my bat, I got some hits, and that's what I'm going to do.
Line drive down the left field line. Base hit for Gary Carter. And he's on his way for 2. The throw in. He's in there. It gets away, but it's backed up by Galarraga. And with that, let's get an update and go across the river to Marv Albert in New York.
All right. right, Vin, and at Wrigley, the red-hot Andre Dawson connected for his 8th home run of the season. So Ed Whitson continues to get tattooed. Leon Durham also hit one out. Cubs lead the Padres 2-1 in the 5th. Let's get back to Vin and Joe.
Here at Shea with Darryl Strawberry coming up and Gary Carter at second base. 3-1 in favor of the Expos, and the Mets trying to come on now. High foul off third down the line and out of play. Interestingly enough, to talk about Dawson, when Andre Dawson returned to Montreal with the Cubs, he had 2 home runs and 3 doubles. He was booed every at-bat in Montreal. And when Gary Carter just came up against the Expos, his lifetime batting average against Montreal is the lowest against any other team in the league. And, of course, he just doubled. So 2 of the former Expos, Andre Dawson and Gary Carter. 0-1 to Strawberry.
If you think ball players run on batteries, Darryl Strawberry came up to me before the game. He said, my young son, Darryl Jr., will be watching me today, and tell him that Daddy's thinking about him.
0-1. One ball and 1 strike to the straw man. And he hits a high drive into deep right. Back goes Webster, away back. It's gone. Seven home runs, 21 RBIs, his second of a left-hander, and they want him to take a curtain call. And we have a dandy going, a 3-3 tie. That is the 8th home run the Mets have hit in 2 games plus today against Montreal.
That thing could have snow on it. It was so high.
Like a golf ball. Woo. And here's McReynolds. And he pops it up. Coming in for it is Mitch Webster.
He really got under it. Way up there, and Heaton, he knows he's in deep trouble. And look at Gary Carter. He had to really look straight up to find that ball. Boy, that's one of those movie flights.
So we have a 3-3 tie as Strawberry hits his 7th. The Montreal pitching staff in a state of shock. 8 home runs in 2 games plus 4 innings today. Howard Johnson struck out in the 2nd inning, 0 for 1. Darryl Strawberry visiting with Rafael Santana in the Mets dugout. And when he hits him out, that's almost the seal, the imprimatur of a Mets win. We'll see if it holds up today. Change, and he missed with it. 1 ball, 1 strike. The Cincinnati Reds lead the league in home runs. They have hit 35, and the Mets now have hit 32. 1-1. Fly ball to deep right. Webster going back to the track at the wall. It's off the wall. And Johnson into second base with a stand-up double.
I don't know, Vin, with that one Strawberry hitting that one, you almost believe there is a little rabbit in that baseball. Webster going back, and he just couldn't get back any farther. I mean, the ball was over his head. He had room, but he was in, and Johnson hit that ball hard to the opposite field.
So here in the 4th inning, Neil Heaton, who has won 3 straight, is being rocked. Carter double to left. Strawberry a monstrous home run to right. And now a double to right by Howard Johnson. There's only 1 out. Dave Magadan will be coming up. Terry Leach had been up earlier. And Leach is throwing, so you look ahead for David Cohn's spot. And the Mets are thinking about a hitter. And it would be Al Pedrique, who's out on deck. And he promptly hits it into left center. Base hit. Kendall has it. Here comes Johnson. The throw is not in time. Down to second goes Magadan, and it is 4-3 Mets.
Kendall's throw all the way in. Misses the cutoff man completely. Not a chance for a play at the plate. And Magadan able to take second base. A big play because he stays away from a double play.
The happiest guy in the ballpark, David Cohn, who now stays in the game and comes up to bat. Tried to bunt for a base hit. Remember, there's 1 out. So where Pedrique was out on deck, he's gone back into the dugout, and David Cohn stays in. He sacrificed in the 3rd inning. Wallach playing caddy corner at 3rd. 0-1. Larry Sorensen is throwing in the Expo bullpen. And the bunt, while he was in the batter's box in the count 0-2, it came up and hit his bat. There's Sorensen. The Expos, of course, when they get out in front, they certainly cannot afford to blow leads. And Buck Rogers knows all about that. He doesn't have Reardon to protect leads anymore. He had Burke on the DL for a while. It's a club that has only 13 home runs. Only San Diego has fewer, 12. So they had a 3-0 lead get away, and they're now down 4-3.
If he can get his curveball over, I don't think Dave will even get a swing at it. It seems like the batter's box is a strange territory for him.
1 ball and 2 strikes to count to David Cohn. Down he goes. So the low curveball punches him out, and that'll bring up Mookie Wilson, who has grounded out twice. Grounded out to Galarraga and rolled to Foley. The Mets trying to catch the Cardinals. The Cardinals are at home tonight against Los Angeles. Alejandro Pena and Bob Forge. Pena's coming back from the chicken pox, so you could say he's starting from scratch.
Up.
Hello. Hello, operator.
Were we cut off there?
Yeah, operator.
Excuse me, operator.
Mookie's 0 for 2.
That was painful, man. I got to tell you the truth.
4-3 Mets here in the 4th inning. And Mookie hits one high but not far into right center, and Casey Candell puts it away. However, a single, 2 doubles and a home run. The Mets get 3 and lead 4-3. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Defending tournament champion Greg Norman looks to rebound from his heartbreak at the Masters as he takes to the links along with the brightest stars in men's golf, the Las Vegas Invitational, following today's game. It is 4-3 in favor of the Mets. Tim Raines, Tim Wallach, and Andres Galarraga, the numbers 3, 4, and 5 hitters in the Montreal lineup. Ball 1. Raines in his first game tripled in the first inning, walked, stole second, and scored in the 3rd.
Isn't it great to have the kind of power he's gotten, and the third baseman still has to play in and protect against the bunt?
Ball 2, 2-0.
Look at there. Pulls him in on the grass, and he can hit him against the fence. You can bet first or fourth or third.
2 balls and no strikes. In there. 2-1 to Tim. So the National League batting champ has returned to make life miserable for pitchers and infielders alike. Ground ball up the middle, backhanded by Tuffle, who gets him. So Tim Tuffle comes up with his second fine play. He took a hit away from Casey Candell in the 4th, and now takes one away from Raines.
Backhands it, knows Raines is running, and gets good stuff on it.
I'll tell you one thing I will always remember about Tim Tuffle, and that was his thoroughly professional demeanor after the heartbreaking error in the World Series against Boston. I mean, you want to talk about a class way to react. That was a tip-off on what kind of a fella he is. Strike to Tim Wallach.
Boy, he answered all the questions, and then there were some stragglers, and he stayed right there, and he didn't run and hide.
Didn't hide in the trainer's room. Shot up the middle. Base hit. So David Cohn gives up a single to Wallach, who is 1 for 3. 7 hits allowed by Cohn, and the tying runs aboard as Andres Galarraga comes up. And of course, with a young Cohn pitching and the fact that Roger McDowell is not here, the Mets, even though they're leading, have to be a little anxious. Galarraga checks in. We're not going to see Montreal very often this year, so it's a tidbit you might find a little interesting. Galarraga is 2 for 2. Ball 1. 1-0. Andres Galarraga from Caracas, Venezuela. And Andres was born June the 18th, 1961. He was born the day that Eddie Gaedel, the midget who appeared for Bill Veeck, remember, the little guy in St. Louis Browns, etc. Well, Andres was born the day that Eddie Gaedel died. And that's the connection, the past and the present. One and 0. In there.
Boy, you would think you'd be able to hit that corner all day long because he's a long way from the plate. They say that when you take your swing, you should be able to cover the plate. He's a long way, but I'm sure he can, but it sure doesn't look like it. Look how far he is from him.
And he loops it into right center field. Strawberry coming to make a great catch. Oh, what a day for Darryl Strawberry. He almost lost his gum.
Good play, and since it was to his glove side, able to get there, and when he falls, he just simply unfolds. Good play, towering home run, and taped on both wrists, no injury. It's just to give him support, he says. I asked him about it before the game.
So the batter will be John Stefero, the catcher, who popped up and singled to left. 1 for 2. Still 4-3 Mets. The Mets bullpen, however, has been in constant turmoil, as Cohn has been in trouble in every inning but the 4th. And remember, in this inning, if Raines doesn't lose a hit on a good play by Tuffle, why, he's up to his hips in hot water again. That left-hander is Gene Walter, along with Terry Leach. And there's a shot to right. Strawberry coming over to play it on a bounce. And stopping at second is Stefero. And David Cohn can thank his stars. He could easily have given up 4 consecutive hits in this inning. Well, it is the big leagues, and you should get some support. Three runs and 8 hits. Yeah, welcome to the real world. Huh? Look at those numbers. That make you round-shouldered.
That opening that he had. Stottlemyre's coming out once again. That opening game he had was really a Halloween game for him.
So Mel Stottlemyre trying to help the youngster. You have 2 outs in the inning. The batter will be Vance Law. And Stottlemyre and the Mets, in counting pitches, they also know it has not only been a painful journey for Cohn, but his expenditure is getting higher and higher. He's already made 79 pitches, and we're in the 5th.
It's pretty obvious what Dave Johnson is trying to do as we watch Strawberry make that catch once again. He's going to just try to pull as hard as he can to give this kid a victory, because it's just get him over the hump is what Davey's trying to do.
So the play by Strawberry, the play by Tuffle has bailed him out up to here. Ball one. After Law, you have the left hand hitting Tom Foley. Law single to right and walked. And the breaking ball missed, so he's in a hole now, 2-0.
I think if Law gets on base, whichever way, Cone won't have to worry about the next hitter.
No, I think that's what Gene Walter is throwing for down in the Mets bullpen. He's getting ready for Tom Foley. Gene Walter warms up as if he's trying to keep it to himself. You ever see how he curls up over the ball? 2-0. Fastball in there. 2-1. So David Cone is fighting. Look at Walter. It's almost like it's a secret. Tough to read, of course. Two balls, one strike. Now he's in trouble. I mean, you talk about the bullfighter and the moment of truth. He's looking over the horns right now. The horns are Wallach at second, Stefaro at first, and a 3-1 count to Van's Law. Three and two, so they'll crank him up now, which is a slight offensive edge, especially because you have Wallach coming off a fractured toe and ankle and a catcher at first. So that's a slight edge, and Rogers will take anything he can get.
Extra pressure on this pitch means staying in the game or being yanked.
3-2 the count, and here it is now for David Cone. Runners ready. The runners go. Fastball hit foul off first, way back into the crowd, out of play, and it's still 3-2. Like to particularly remind the people in the New York area, for the benefit of the New York City Amateur Baseball Federation and the Jimmy Fund, the Mets will meet the Red Sox here at Shea Thursday night, May 7th at 7:05. Hope you make your fans two worthy charities. All right, the runners ready again, 3-2. There they go. And that's driven to right, but that's Strawberry, who reaches up to haul it in. And David Cone can thank his stars, but he can also thank the Mets gloves, and he survived the fifth. He's leading, he's being lathered, and he's lucky. It must be very, very tough to keep a kid's confidence all together.
Everybody's giving him a pep talk. Davey went right to him after the inning. Stoudemire right now. They pulled him through the fifth inning. It's the longest he's pitched. He's made 86 pitches. Hasn't struck out anyone. 3 base on balls, 1 balk. It's been a Disneyland ride for him, but he's leading.
He is indeed. He's gone the required 5 as a starting pitcher. And Tim Tuffle, who has certainly helped him with 2 fine plays. Tuffle will lead it off. Tuffle walked in the first inning and doubled in a run in the third. He has made dazzling plays on Candell and Raines. There's a change, hit to shortstop, and Tom Foley is there. So they get Tuffle with the off-speed pitch, 1 away. Keith Hernandez coming up. Struck out and grounded out. Keith 0 for 2. The question, at least in the early going, for the New York Mets, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Boston Red Sox, find a stopper. As you can see, the consistency of Keith Hernandez. With Gooden sidelined, the stopper has definitely been Sid Fernandez. Fernandez, a 4-game winner. He's done a great job in stopping what could be long slides. The Mets lost 4 straight already this year, and that was their longest losing streak all of last year. 1-1. St. Louis losing Tudor So now the question is, who's going to be a stopper over there? Somebody like Danny Cox? Would you look at a kid like Joe McGrain? But that question has to be answered. 1-1. Gary Carter waiting on deck. 1-2 the count to Keith Hernandez. 4-3 Mets, bottom of the 5th. Oh, made him look bad too. Let's get an update again. Marv Albert has one on Kevin Mitchell.
Thank you, Vin. And at Wrigley in Chicago in the Padres' 6th inning, it was former Met Kevin Mitchell able to go up the middle, a 2-run single, Templeton and Gwynn scoring. Padres lead the Cubs 3-2 in the 7th. Back to Vin and Joe.
With 2 down and the bases empty here in the 5th inning, Gary Carter, the batter, flied to center and doubled and hits it foul down the line, out of play, and the count 0-1. Gary Carter, the last 9 years, he has had a higher average as a hitter with men on base than with the bases empty. Pops it foul, out of play. We'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
This is Channel 5, WPTZ, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington.
To further bolster, with the Mets leading 4-3, the remark about Carter, he's had over 100 RBIs now for 3 straight years. One and two. And he's a #1 active player in the National League, is Gary, in grand slams with 10. He loves to have somebody set the table for him. They load up the left side, and the breaking ball fouled away. It's almost a, well, it is a Ted Williams shift.
They're expecting to pull, and he certainly is trying to pull everything. But you know, Vin, listening to you read off his record, I've never seen a more maligned player for no other reason than being a decent guy. He signs autographs, says hello, shows enthusiasm, and he gets a rap for it.
One of the nicknames they had for him in Montreal, they called him Lights. Ground ball right to the second baseman, who's playing short. So with a picket fence up on the left side, they get Gary Carter. And at the end of 5, it's 4-3 Mets. Now another edition of Baseball Remembers. Well, I guess you could say the rhubarb that wasn't. Catcher Barry Lyons goes into the dugout of the Cardinals. John Tudor tries to catch him, breaks his leg. The Mets try to get Tudor's phone number so Lyons can apologize. The Cardinal publicist says we don't have his number because he just moved. Jay Horowitz hangs up in anger. And now what?
Everybody's mad, and then they find out that Tudor picked up the phone. He calls Barry Lyons. They call Lyons off the field, and everybody lives happily ever after. I think it was a class move on both parts, and it was a rhubarb. There wasn't.
Yeah, it was a tempest in a teapot and in a teacup as well. And the brouhaha is down the drain. And let's find out now about whether David Cone is going to be able to win one, and it'll be up to Terry Leach to try and hold on to it for him. Terry Leach, who has been pitching very well, is now given the responsibility of keeping the Expos away. He has not given up a run in his last 4 games coming out of the bullpen. But as with all relief pitchers, and for that matter all ball players, what have you done for me lately?
I like his first move. He pointed to Hernandez. You know, he's liable to bunt. Foley did that last night. At least he's aware.
Strike. David Cone, who went 5 innings and is the pitcher of record, leading 4-3, will now sit there and agonize. One ball, one strike. Foley doubled and popped up, and he's coming off a good game last night when he tied his career high with 3 RBIs. Line drive down the right field line, fair ball. And the tying run is on its way to second base, and Foley will little hold there. He was thinking third, but he took a good look at Jackie Moore, who put the brakes on. So the tying run is at second base with nobody out.
Strawberry did a good job playing the carom because it's a tricky wall out there in right field, and Foley had to play in front of him. And as you said, Vin, there we see, look at Strawberry. If he tries to cut it off and he gets by him, he waited for it. He did juggle it a bit, but he didn't let that ball get by him. Now he picks up the coach. That's good base running. You saw Foley watching that play because it was in front of him. And when he saw that ball kind of get by Strawberry, he wanted to come over, but then he picked up his coach and stopped. Now they need the ground ball or the bunt. I would certainly look for the bunt.
Neil Heaton with Hernandez creeping in, hoping to get a play at third. Ball one. Boy, he looked like he was going to take a hack if it was anywhere in the zone.
Yes, he was. He wasn't thinking bunt at all. Keith is in tight. I have to side with Hernandez. I'd be looking for him to get that ball down. He's going to have to bunt it to third base because Hernandez, he's a daring first baseman. He'll go to third. Time is called now.
And time coming in with Tuffle taking advantage of it. Foley has sure been busy getting on base. He's had a big on-base series. 7 out of 8 times in the last 2 days, Tom Foley has been aboard. And he has 2 doubles today. Well, nobody out in the 6th. 4-3 Mets, and we'll see what Heaton does. He's swinging, and it's a little roller played by Hernandez to Tuffle covering, and he got his man over.
That's the kind of thing you would catalog if you're going to play the Expos again in the spot like that. It's a tribute to, forget the average that Heaton has. It's a tribute to his hitting ability.
And for somebody coming over from the American League who didn't swing a bat at all.
Exactly.
That's something. So Neil Heaton puts a little heat on Terry Leach. The tying run is now 90 feet away. And with 1 out in the 6th, Casey Candell trying to pick him up. Walked and grounded out twice. Tuffle took a hit away from him in the 4th inning, and the infield is up. Ball 1. Now suddenly Tuffle retreats, and the infield now on the 2nd pitch, they're going back. On the 1st pitch, they were all the way up. And there's a fly ball into shallow right. Going out is Tuffle to make the catch, and Foley has nowhere to go. I was a little surprised that Tuffle caught that ball because Strawberry had an easy play, and he had the play in front of him while Tuffle was going away.
And Strawberry would be coming towards the plate. It would really be his ball. I agree with you. I was watching the base runner and Jackie Moore, the coach, and Foley at third base. He didn't even bother to tag up because he knew he had no chance.
So with 2 down in the 6th inning, Mitch Webster flied to left, lined out to right, and flied to left. But all those at-bats were against David Cone. Now it's against Terry Leach. Leach was a non-roster player with the Mets. He was 4-4 with Tidewater last year and appeared very briefly in a half a dozen games for New York. Four runs, 6 hits for the Mets. 3 runs, 9 hits for the Expos, and we're in the 6th. And a bunt right back to Leach, who bobbles, recovers, throws, and it's late. The run is home. Davey Johnson and Keith Hernandez arguing with Dave Pallone, and the Expos have tied it up.
He bobbled it. It was not a good bunt. It went right back to Leach. And when he boots it, he obviously lost the play. Here it is. Comes right back to him. I couldn't tell from that play.
So he threw a sinker to Hernandez.
I say he's out from there.
Yeah, on that play, he looked out. However, the history books will duly note that he is safe. The run is in. It's 4-4. An error charge to Leach. And the batter now, Tim Raines. And, of course, what that also means, a chance that got away for David Cone. No longer involved. No chance to pick up a victory. He's history in this one. Remember, Mitch Webster can be a very daring base runner, but of course with Raines up there, he might be holding just to keep Hernandez busy. 1 ball, no strikes. Mitch Webster, the runner at first, stole 36 bases last year, so you know he has the speed. Two balls and no strikes. Tim Raines tripled to right, walked, stole second, and scored in the third, and Tuffle took a hit away from him in the fifth.
Got a good picture of Raines looking at his third base coach. He wants to know what's happening with the base runner because you know he's got the green light to hit 2-0.
And he hits it foul back at first, and the count 2-1. The Expos got a run in the second inning and 2 in the third. In the bottom of the third, Tuffle doubled in Magadan, and in the fourth, Strawberry homered with Carter aboard to tie it up and go in front. And now the Expos, on a double and a very costly error by Terry Leach, have caught him to tie it 4-4. Ground ball to the hole, off the glove of Tuffle's effort, and stopping at second base is Webster as Strawberry comes up ready to throw. So 2 on, and trying desperately to get it, just went off the thumb of the glove and on out into right field.
He kind of thought he had it for a minute, laying down. Tuffle's made some good plays, and again, Vin, what a way for Tim Raines to break in.
And you know, even if he does come up with the ball, I don't think he gets Raines.
No.
And since Strawberry did come up with it, Webster was not about to go to third, not with a home run hitter up. And the Expos do not have people you call a home run hitter. Tim Wallach has one, but he can't hit him.
Said to Carter before the game, anybody on this ball club you especially check to see if they're stealing maybe a sneak at you? He said Eli. I said, who? Eli. And Eli Wallach. So right. They named him after the great actor.
They did indeed. And it's hit down to shortstop, to the bag, just in time. All eyes on Dutch Rennert, who finally indicated the play was made at the end of 5 1/2, 4-4.
Here's that last play. A little bit of confusion by Howard Johnson. Now, Tim Raines is the runner. You may have forgotten, and it is a little bit closer than managers like to see. But they get him. Here's the error that gave him the run. You call it. From that picture, he was out.
However, despite the pleadings of Hernandez and his manager, the run was over as Darryl Strawberry, who is hitting over 500 against the Expos, whistles a line drive single to center. He grounded out in the second inning, hit a 2-run home run in the fourth, and now a shot up the middle in the sixth. Neil Heaton has allowed 7 hits. The Expos have left 9 men on base in 6 innings, so they've had golden opportunities to jump out in front. And if it wasn't Cone, it was one of his fielders to get off the hook. Kevin McReynolds hit back to the box and flied to right, 0 for 2. Ball 1. One thing you might have thought the Mets got Kevin McReynolds because they needed a right-handed bat against left-hand pitching. And then you go to the books and say, well, how did the Mets do against left-hand pitching last year? A reasonable question. They were 46 and 22 against left-handers. Now they have McReynolds, and how are they doing against left-handers this year? They're 5 and 5. 1 ball and no strikes to Kevin. And there goes Strawberry. The pitch is low. The throw is late.
He is really playing like the complete baseball player that everybody thought he was going to be. Straight steal, head down, looking for the bag. And when he slides, picks up a little speed, not even close.
Darryl Strawberry is the only player in the last 4 years with at least 100 home runs and at least 100 stolen bases. He stands alone and getting better. Ground ball to third. Wallach holds Strawberry. That takes care of McReynolds. 1 out. And the switch hitting Howard Johnson coming up. Isn't that something? Of course, Mike Fitzgerald, the #1 catcher, is out with a bad finger. Jeff Reed, the #2 catcher, tried to be a good Samaritan in a recent fight between Andy McGaffigan and Sean Dunston. And after all the milling and pushing and shoving, what happened? Jeff Reed is out with a bad shoulder. So John Stefaro's catching. And they're not catching many.
Isn't that what happened to Wade Boggs, too, in the rhubarb?
Right.
Imagine that, those baseball fights. Huh.
Howard Johnson struck out, double to right. 4-1. A 4-4 tie in the 6th. 4 runs, 10 hits for the Expos. 4 runs, 7 hits for the Mets. Getting down to Leach's spot, and Lee Mazzilli is out on deck if they get that far. You have Magadan after Johnson and then Mazzilli. Line drive down the left field line, foul. So Davy Johnson thinking ahead. Seeing his club down 3-0, taking a 4-3 lead, only see that tied up. Will make a move, and all Buck Rogers can do is hang on. Tim Burke down in the Expo bullpen. That's the best he has. Ball 2, 2-1. There's Tim. Of course, it's his big responsibility to take up the slack from Jeff Reardon. And that is some slack. Two and 1. Fouled off. Howard Johnson with a chance to untie it. A 4-4 tie in the 6th. So Vance Law breaking to the bag, trying to tie up Strawberry. Darryl holding at second.
He's getting a big lead from second base. I tell you that out by McReynolds, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, that man on second, you got to pick up a base and make the out.
Going to third, and the pitch is inside. There wasn't anybody there to cover him.
He wanted to come over. 2 pitches before that, Vance Law was trying to track him back, and I'll tell you, he picks up the big base as Johnson draws the base on balls. That's one of those situations where Strawberry, I'm sure, you ask the third base coach, you think I can come over? Can I come over? I think I can make it.
Well, he's 2 for 2 today. He's stolen 4 out of 6 this year. And, of course, that's a big steal. That takes a lot of pressure off Magadan now. Dave has a chance to pick him up with a fly ball. He's blowing out to right field. Magadan flies single to center and single to center in the 4th inning. He's 2 for 2. Ball 1. Lee Mazzilli is on deck to perhaps bat for Terry Leach. 4-4 tie. 6th inning. Ball 2 off speed. Neil Heaton came to Montreal in the deal for Jeff Reardon. And we were talking about Tim Burke, who's in the bullpen picking up the slack. Here's the shoes that he has to fill. Jeff Reardon in the last 6 years accounted for 42% of all Montreal victories. Can you imagine? 2-0. And there's the fly ball. Going back on it is Candell. And so the straw man, who stole second and stole third, trots home with the go-ahead run. What a performance he just put on. 5-4 Mets.
That's simply as championship baseball what Strawberry did, because he erased the mistake of McReynolds by not hitting the ground ball to the right side, steals the base, and then Magadan comes up with the sacrifice fly. You have 1 base hit and you get 1 run in.
And you realize if he doesn't steal second, McReynolds' ground ball is a double play ball, and that fly ball by Magadan ends the inning, and the Mets have nothing. So it has been a Strawberry performance. And he also, for good measure, remember, made the diving catch on the ball hit by Galarraga in the 5th inning. Otherwise, he hadn't done anything today.
Let's not forget the home run, which stayed in the air 10, 20, 30 minutes.
So Howard Johnson drawing the throw. 5-4 Mets in a game where Montreal led 3-0. The Mets led 4-3. One ball and no strikes. Lee Mazzilli hitting for Terry Leach. Darryl Strawberry, along with his thoughts, they have to be happy ones today. Foul back. Once again, we'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. As of right now, it's a runaway selection. It's like the NBC projects the winner in New Hampshire.
That's
is.
Right. Strawberry Festival.
Wow. 1-1 to count to Lee Mazzilli. And there goes Johnson. The pitch is a strike, and the throw too late, offline. He's in there. So 3 stolen bases in the inning. And Howard Johnson picks it up.
Spots that bag, and then he goes head first. No hit run play there. That always tells you, watch that base runner.
Johnson 3 for 3 in steals this year. 5-4 Mets. And Mazzilli trying to pick up Johnson. Lee 1 for 6 this year as a right-handed batter. 2-2. Mazzilli is 32. He first came up to the Mets back in 1976. I mean, it was Saturday Night Fever when he got here. He was born in New York. and appeared as a pinch hitter in 9 of the Mets' 13 postseason games, including 2 for 5 in the World Series. Base hit into left field. Here comes Howard Johnson to score, and it is 6-4 Mets. And the stolen base has been the key to the inning completely. Buck Rogers slowly making a painful walk out to the mound. Takes the ball from his starting pitcher, Neil Heaton, who takes a hike. And Tim Burke will be called in from the bullpen. Mets 6, Expos 4. We'll be back after this. Tim Burke, who is asked to fill a big pair of shoes formerly worn by Jeff Reardon, comes out of the bullpen, although this is not the particular area where Reardon would have come in. You wouldn't have used Jeff when you're down by 2. But Andy McGaffigan, Randy St. Clair, and Bob McClure worked 5 1/3 innings last night, and so Buck Rogers is very short and thin in the pen. That's the note we gave you before about the importance of Jeff Reardon to Montreal and the burden that Tim Burke has to shoulder. 2 years ago, Tim set a major league record. He appeared in 78 games, most for a rookie pitcher. And at one stage, he was with the Yankees in a deal from Pittsburgh that involved the runner at first, Lee Mazzilli. Mookie Wilson, 0 for 3, runner going, fouled away, and the Mets are just taking liberties with the Expos now. Strawberry stole second and third. Johnson has stolen second, and Mazzilli was trying to steal.
You would think sooner or later you'd try a pitch out to let them know that you're aware of it, rather than just keep looking up and seeing stolen base.
So Davey has the boys running. Actually, the Mets have been outrun by their opponents better than 2-1. Though the running game has not been part of the attack until this inning, and it has paid off. Mazzilli not going. Foul at the plate. 0-2 to Mookie. Wilson has posted good numbers, admittedly, in the early going. When the game started today, he was hitting over 370 left-handed and over 360 right-handed. So Burke takes care of Mookie Wilson. However, the Mets run their way for 2 and take the lead, 6-4. And we'll be back after these messages from your local station. Attempt to win 1-0. And a man whose name was synonymous with Carlisle, Pennsylvania, Indian Jim Thorpe, drove in the winning run 70 years ago.
And leading off,
Buck Rogers would just as soon forget the bottom of the 6th inning. Never mind what happened 70 years ago. It's been a frustrating day for the Buck. You know, when you look at Rogers, you realize what happened to the Expos last year. He had his best 8 players in the lineup, the starting lineup that he wanted to go with all year, 15 times. That's all. 15 games last year did the Expos have their starting lineup intact. They won 11 of the 15. Foul back. 1-1.
I'll bet you the day he remembers like his wedding anniversary is January 8th. That's when he lost Dawson, Raines, and Martinez. You know, you overlook Martinez. He was his 3rd starter.
Sure. Ground ball to the hole and base hit off Gene Walter. And Andres Galarraga is 3 for 4. The only time they got him was that diving catch by Darryl Strawberry. So he's having a big day. The guy with a bad thumb, 3 for 4, and the batter will be John Stefaro. And Stefaro will give way for a hitter. And it'll be Mike Fitzgerald, the ex-Met. So Fitzgerald, who has a bad finger, is coming up to hit. Bad finger or no, we assume he will stay in the game to catch because Reed can't. Mike Fitzgerald was with the Mets 83 and 84. And the bunt in the air, foul, drops untouched. Interesting note, you compare what a player does against his old team. So let's take a look at Mike Fitzgerald and the catcher, Gary Carter. Mike Fitzgerald hit .524 against the Mets. You know what Carter hit against the Expos? .224. Gary, as we mentioned, at .224 average, the lowest against any team in the league. 0-1. No balls and 2 strikes to count to Mike Fitzgerald. Andres Galarraga at first in the 7th inning, 6-4 in favor of the Mets. Ground ball to shortstop. Johnson feeding Tuffle, and he goes to Hernandez.
The next batter,
just a classic. What can you say about it? Shovels it eye high, makes the pivot. Runner's not even close, and by the time Galarraga got there, the ball was on its way to first base.
By taking infield, Tim Tuffle, the middleman. So 6-4-3 double play, and Vance Law, the batter. Law has singled to right, walked, and flied to right. Ball 1. 6 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for the Mets. 4 runs, 11 hits for the Expos. 2-0.
He does have a unique way of delivering. Like he gets that ball and he says, "I'm gonna keep."
That's right. It's I've got a secret.
You know, watch it. Try to take that ball from me.
Watch his shoulders.
I have it.
Always felt that way. That he pitched like he was trying to keep it to himself. 3-0 the count to Vance Law.
That's not a bad idea, and he can't hit it as long as you're holding it.
True, true. And he's walked him, so he can thank that double play ball as Tom Foley comes up.
coming around to the plate, shortstop.
There he goes into the, and now he delivers it.
Gene came over in that elaborate deal that involved Kevin McReynolds, Kevin Mitchell, etc., and San Diego. Walter was selected originally by the Montreal Expos in the '81 draft. He elected to remain in school, and he was the Padres selection in '82. He went to Eastern Kentucky University. He was very, very tough last year on left-handed batters. In fact, Gene Walter led the National League by holding left-hand hitters to a 151 batting average and a 174 slugging average. I mean, he just ate them alive. See what he does here with Tom Foley. On the corner, 1-2. Foley doubled in the second inning, popped up, and doubled and scored in the sixth. So Tom is 2 for 3. Been on base 8 of the last 9 at bats. And a little flare to right. Going out is Tuffle. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 6.5, it's 6-4 Mets. Now another edition of the 7th inning stretch. next week, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Mets and the Braves, and most of you see a rematch from last fall. The California Angels, and they'll go to Fenway Park. Take a look at McNamara's band. That's next Saturday, right here on the Game of the Week. Mike Fitzgerald behind the plate, having batted for John Stefaro. And in the bottom of the 7th inning, it is 6-4 Mets. A reminder, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Tim Tuffle has had a good workmanlike day, but he's been overshadowed by Darryl Strawberry. But Tuffle walked, doubled in a run, grounded out, made 2 fine plays on Candell and Brains. And he promptly whacks it into left field, and that's to the alley. A great diving catch, and then it got away from Tim Raines. The ball's live, and into second base goes Tuffle. Raines caught it, and it was jarred loose when he hit the ground.
You could see it looked like an ice cream cone. You could see him looking for the warning track. Watch it. Elbow. As soon as the elbow hit, popped right out. If he could have extended his arm like most of them do, he would have been able to hold it.
And Wally Backman will now run for Tim Tuffle at second base. The Raines has put on a show, and Tuffle comes out getting the double. Tim Raines tripled, walked, stole a base, robbed of a hit, and singled. So we've had several great individual performances today. So Burke gives up that long double. That's the 9th hit for the Mets. They've had 4 doubles and a home run. And they lead 6-4. Nobody out. Ball 1. The Expos have had 2 doubles and a triple. So the ball's been flying around here. 20 base hits. 1-0. Ball 2. Wally Backman running at second base for Tim Tuffle, and then he'll stay in the game at second. Just looking at Mike Fitzgerald and the crouch behind the plate. The Expos have used a dozen catchers since Gary Carter left. A dozen. Two balls, no strikes. Hit down the left field line, slicing as it curls in the corner, foul. Keith Hernandez has struck out twice and grounded out 0 for 3 after having had a 13-game hitting streak go down the tubes last night. On deck, Gary Carter. Two and two, and he was really flying open. I don't think he had any idea what that ball was. His head was out of there. His right shoulder was out of there.
He was going to pull that ball.
Oh, yeah.
He had made up his mind. He was going to pull it. He took one shot with the pitch that he thought he could handle and fouled it down left field line. This one he was going to pull.
2-2 to Keith. Fouled away. Sometimes, I guess, you fly open too soon, so then you overcompensate and you get jammed. I think that's what he might have done that time. 7th inning, 6-4 Mets. Wally Backman running for Tim Tuffle at second base. 3-2. With Backman at second, I can't say that the bullpen is not busy for Montreal, but it's not somebody throwing. 3-2. Fouled away. There's a rarity in a bullpen, no one throwing. Practicing swinging the bat. That's Dave Engel down there, working off some nervous energy and getting in a little practice. You won't see that very often.
No, you don't.
Practicing your hitting in the bullpen. 3-2, the count to Keith Hernandez. Ground foul.
He is really turning on the ball, hoping to get at least a ground ball to move Backman over to third.
It is 6-4 Mets. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. Backman running for Tuffle. The Mets trying to make it 4 straight and 7 out of 10. Fouled away. So Hernandez making Burke work. The Expos led 1-0, 3-0, 3-1. The Mets led 4-3. Then it was 4-4, and now it's 6-4 Mets in the 7th. And a one-hopper backhanded at shortstop by Foley to get him. Oh, what a big league play that was. And Foley got a round of applause from second baseman Vance Law. I mean, that was shelled.
Ball was hit hard, and Hernandez had tried to pull the ball, but he went with that one and trying for the base hit, didn't get it. That's a big league play, turned him around.
Wow. So Foley does a 360 and holds Backman, takes a hit away from Hernandez and prevents a run. And now here's Gary Carter. Fly to center, double to left and grounded out. And on deck, Darryl Strawberry. Strike. Strawberry's been everywhere for the home run and a single, 2 stolen bases, and a diving catch in right field. No balls, 1 strike. Strike 2. With Carter up there, not only does Foley play deep in the hole at short, but Vance Law serves a double purpose at second base. Law not only fills up the middle, but he bird dogs Backman. And to all you others who've been watching the ball game involving the Cubs, welcome to Shea Stadium in New York. The Cubs winning 7-3. The Mets are leading the Expos 6-4. Bottom of the 7th, 1 out. Wally Backman is at second base running for Tim Tuffle, who had doubled. It's been a wild game. Expos led 3-1. Mets led 4-3. Expos tied it. Mets lead 6-4. 0-2 to Gary Carter. In the dirt, good save by Mike Fitzgerald. Wouldn't you know, the former Mets catcher now with Montreal makes a good save on the former Montreal catcher now with New York. 1-2.
He made a one-handed catch, but he was in front of it. That ball would not have gotten by him.
Again, directing and wigwagging to Vance Law out at second base. One and 2. Worked inside and missed. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
He got 2 strikes on that outside corner and then a bad curveball. Now this one, if he's going to throw that hard stuff, it'll be on the outside part of that plate. He was able to get the strike with that pitch.
Cubs beat San Diego 7-3. The Cubs hit 4 home runs today. Fisted wide of first is Galarraga. Underhands behind Burke, who makes a good play to reach back and get it. And Wally Backman takes third.
Tries to lead him. It's behind him. Burke, good play.
And now an ovation after Galarraga and Burke, and they're going to take the bat right out of Strawberry's hand, and the crowd won't like that a bit. And Buck Rogers couldn't care less.
That was a good pitch that Burke made on Carter, because it looked like Gary was going for that ball the outside part of the plate, and he just saw the bat right off in his hands. I mean, he didn't hit it anywhere.
Carter is really struggling. He is 0 for 12 in his last 14 at-bats with runners in scoring position. So that makes it very tough on Strawberry, because they just move him out of there.
Well, I'm surprised Montague took his mask off while they're intentionally walking him. I've seen too many guys, when that happens, take a swing at it.
Oh, there's Gary, who is shaking his head because Montreal, as they have been doing ever since he came to New York, they do a pretty good number on him in keeping his bat quiet. McReynolds hungry with men in scoring position, and he has him at first and third. 6-4 Mets, bottom of the 7th, 2 out. McReynolds 0 for 3. Right. Kevin hit back to the box, flied to right, grounded to third. Backman down the line from third. Strawberry from first. 0-2. Strawberry stole second and third in the 6th inning, and they were both very important plays. If he doesn't steal second, McReynolds hits into a double play and they come up empty. If he doesn't steal third, he couldn't have scored on the fly ball by Magadan.
You better watch him now, too.
0-2 to Kevin McReynolds.
I think he's going.
There he goes. Fastball fouled away. We told you the Cubs chewed on San Diego 7-3, and they did it with the home runs. Jody Davis, Ryne Sandberg, Andre Dawson, and Leon Durham. And Sandberg's was a 3-run home run. Ironic, too, because San Diego, with no power, they only have a dozen home runs. Texas leading Toronto 5-4 in the 6th inning. The ex-Padre, Kevin McReynolds, at the plate. Fast one, and down he goes. Coming up for Montreal in the 8th inning, Tim Burke, Casey Candell, and Mitch Webster. 6-4 New York. They'll be teeing it up at the Panasonic Las Vegas Invitational right after baseball, so stay with us. As we go to the 8th inning, Reed Nichols will bat for Tim Burke. Fisted foul, 0-1. Wally Backman, who ran for Tim Tuffle, staying in at second base, of course. Reed Nichols hitting .208. 2 RBIs. And line drive at Walter. Woo. He stopped a bullet.
He just threw the glove up, and there it was. I mean, his follow-through perfect. He's in pretty good shape. Look at here. Well balanced. There it is. Yeah, got my glove up and got me a big out. And tonight, buy a lottery ticket. You may be a big winner.
You already were. Well, here is Casey Candell. Walked, grounded out, robbed of a hit, and popped up. 0 for 3, thrown out trying to steal in the 1st inning. And that was a big play, because with 2 out, Tim Raines tripled. The Expos have left 10 men on base through 7 innings. Shot to short. 2 down. Howard Johnson doing a good job filling in for the injured Rafael Santana. And Mitch Webster coming up. Webster flied to left, lined out to right, flied to left, and in the 6th inning, bunted. And that was the bunt back to Terry Leach. He bobbled it, then threw on a bounce. And Webster declared safe at first. Mitch 0 for 4. Would you say that's ducking the issue when you say he was declared safe at first?
No,
that's not Washington speak or anything. It's just he was declared safe.
Declared safe.
Contrary to the videotape, the feelings of 30,000 people.
But he was declared safe.
That's right. 2-0 to Mitch. On deck, representing the tying run, and he's a threat, of course, Tim Raines. High fly ball to center field. Wilson going back, and the wind's going to cut it down. The wind blowing from right to left, and there was no chance that thing was going to carry too far. So the Expos are gone in order, and at the end of 7 1/2, 6-4 New York. Well, we'd like to doff our cap to one of the solid fixtures, NBC Engineering Department, for 39 years. And time to put the tools away and live the good life. So much love, congratulations, and smooth sailing to Walter Dresch. Larry Sorensen is coming into the ballgame, and he will go in the number 2 slot if you're keeping score. And Reed Nichols, who batted, will stay in right field and bat 9th. There's Reed. Sorensen working to Howard Johnson, the switch hitter, now going left-handed. 1 ball and no strikes. Hojo today struck out, doubled, walked, stole a base, and scored a run, and has done well at shortstop. Started 1 double play. Line drive, 1 hopper at second, and Law takes care of it. A good play by Vance Law. In that ball game, Toronto leading 6-5. Knuckleballer Charlie Huff and his manager Bobby Valentine have been kicked out of the ball game. Dave Magadan, 2 singles and a scoring fly ball. He has scored a run, 2 RBIs. So he's 2 for 2. One ball, no strikes, and we'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
WPTZ Channel 5, Plattsburgh, North Pole, Burlington.
Ball 2, 2-0. The Mets leading the Expos 6-4. They had to come from behind. They were down 3-0. On the corner, 2-1. And a reminder, the Panasonic Invitational from Las Vegas will be coming up next. The Shark, the great white shark, Greg Norman, trying to defend his title. 3-1 the count to Dave Magadan. He's walking. So the 1-out pass to Magadan will keep his day going. Gene Walter will be coming up to bat.
I think he got the bunt sign in. He's looking down and said, oh, come on.
I saw the other day a third base coach in a bunt situation, okay? I had to break up. The bunt is a line drive foul. 0-1.
Before you tell your story, that stance that he had is worth seeing once again for the bunt. I have never seen that. Watch this stance. Look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, you couldn't bunt a basketball with that.
There were 2 on and nobody out. Bunt situation, and
Right.
the third base coach hung out the sign. And the first pitch, the hitter turned around to bunt, and it was ball 1. Exact same set of circumstances, ball 2. 2-0.
Yeah.
And the guy's hitting third in the lineup. 2-0. The third base coach came 45 feet out of the third base coaching box down to home plate because he had changed the signs. He might as well have held up a big sign saying hit. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. He got it down. So Gene Walter does his job. He moves his man along, and with 2 out, they'll leave it up to Mookie Wilson.
Hit the plate, bounced straight up. You see what Dick Williams said when they asked him if he had difficult signs? He said if they're any easier, I have to use flashcards. Pepper Martin did that one year in the old Pacific Coast League. He just held up cards that said bunt, hit and run, and nobody would believe him.
Hal Pedrique, you can believe, is now running for Dave Magadan. So Pedrique running for Magadan with 2 out on the 8th, 6-4 Mets.
I bet that was funny.
I've never seen a coach come so close. It's like, are you sure you can see me now? I'm changing the sign.
Shock set in.
Mookie Wilson grounded out twice, flied to center and struck out, and they're going to walk him intentionally. So it's going to be Wally Backman going up against right-hander Larry Sorensen in a moment. So the managers anticipating each other's move, and it'll boil down to Sorensen and Backman. So in a moment, Mookie is aboard, and that thing almost went to the backstop. Did you ever have somebody intentionally walk and have the ball go all the way to the screen?
No, but I've had guys swing, as I mentioned before, and look at Montague with his mask off. I'll have to talk to Eddie about that.
With Wally Backman coming up, Buck Rogers has a left-hander in the bullpen. So if he wants to go left and left, he's got the opportunity, and that's what he's going to do. Backman is a solid hitter against right-handed pitching, but left-handed, the numbers just about command the move. He's hitting .312 against right-handers, .144 against left-handers, consequently the move.
You know, this is my favorite bar, because everyone here drinks.
Boy, you got that right, Charlie. 225 for whoever posts the high on that leaderboard. Going about high on the leaderboard, you're looking at Darryl Strawberry. He's had a 2-run home run, a single, 2 stolen bases, scored 2, and personally has given the Mets a 6-4 lead. And now Wally Backman, who is 0 for 11 against left-hand pitching this year, will check in against left-hander Bob McClure, who has been bruised in this series. It was McClure who served up 3 home runs in 2 innings in the 2 games. And the 3rd home run was the winning home run last night by Tim Tuffle. Backman files Pedrique at 2nd and Wilson at 1st. 2 out in the 8th. 6-4 Mets. Spinner in there for a strike. 1-1. To repeat the amazing fall off, hitting .312 against right-hand pitching, .144 against left-hand pitching in his career. On deck, Keith Hernandez. And to look ahead, Tim Raines, Tim Wallach, and Andres Galarraga due up in the 9th inning. Good save by Fitz. 2-1. To indicate the case of shorts that the Expos have, Bob McClure is the only left-hander in the Montreal pen. The Mets, of course, have Randy Myers, who's been very wild, Gene Walter, who has pitched well and is working today, and the ace left-hander, Jesse Orozco. It would appear as if not only are the Mets a solid club coming off last year, but they're over their problems. Ball 3, 3-1. We have not had a repeat champion since the Yankees of 77 and 78, and I think most people would feel going into this season anyway that the Mets have the best chance of repeating. 3-1. Breaking ball. I guess you got to do that. Boy, you got to throw that deuce. 3-1.
3-1. That's a big pitch. I think he just tried to get that ball over. You see Hernandez on deck. Fitzgerald pointing to first base. There are 2 outs. Let's get the one sure. No trick plays.
The runner's going. And Wally Backman trying to keep the inning alive. McClure, you might remember, was with Milwaukee in the 1982 World Series, and he gave up the base hit for the tying run in Game 7 to the fellow who's on deck for the Mets today, Keith Hernandez. The runners go, and fastball got him looking, and that 140 average is still holding up for Wally Backman. And at the end of 8, 6-4 Mets. One more time, a reminder, the Panasonic Las Vegas Invitational coming up immediately following baseball. Airplane flying overhead, and Tim Raines jumped out of the box. Meanwhile, Al Pedrique is now at shortstop, and Howard Johnson has moved over to third. Pedrique, remember, ran for Magadan. 9th inning, 6-4 Mets. Tim Raines returned, and what a day. What a way to break in. Tripled in the first inning. Walked, stole second, and scored in the third. Robbed of a hit by Tuffle in the 5th, and singled to right in the 6th. What a way to come back. And almost made a circus catch of the ball hit by Tuffle in the 7th inning. 2-0. In there.
He was talking before the game when everybody was asking him questions, all the writers and TV people, and he said, well, I usually get off to a slow start. I'm just going to consider like the first month is my slow start, and I'm going to go from here.
Somebody probably said to him, look, you might be accustomed to a slow start, but you're now making $1.8 million a year. There ain't no such thing as a slow start for a $1.8 million player. I mean, you got to come breathing fire.
And he did.
Yep. Doug Sisk is throwing in the pen behind Walter. Ground ball to shortstop, so Pedrique gets his feet wet right away and throws late in the dirt.
He nonchalanted the play. He really didn't think who was running, and Raines running very hard just absolutely outran that play.
All the time in the world, he thought, and then he threw a sinker. And Raines, with a last burst of speed, beats the throw, and that is a big play because you now have Wallach and Galarraga, and if somebody hits it out, the game is tied. And they are calling it a base hit on a ground ball to short. And Davy Johnson says, you call it a hit, I'll call for a right-hander. There's not very much you can say to Gene Walter when you get Tim Raines to hit a ground ball to the shortstop.
Well, he did the job. He got his man.
So Doug Sisk is coming in, and we'll be back after this.
I was 10 years old. A fabulous faucet with a funny name.
The Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by Miller Lite, but great taste is only one light beer. By AC Delco, the smart parts. By John Deere and your local John Deere dealer. And by Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your GM car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. With nobody out in the 9th inning and the Mets leading the Expos 6-4, we are in Roger McDowell country. except Roger McDowell is not here, out with the groin operation and recovery, and so Doug Sisk is asked to do a big job. McDowell had 22 saves and won 14 games for the Mets last year. And in truth, the Mets have missed Roger McDowell more so than they have missed Dwight Gooden. So Doug Sisk pitching to Tim Wallach, Andres Galarraga, and Mike Fitzgerald. And of course, the relief pitchers figure to be battling for a job when Gooden and McDowell return. Gooden, they're talking about June 1st. McDowell, to quote Davy Johnson, will have him back in 2 weeks. So people like Randy Myers, Terry Leach, and Doug Sisk fighting to stay here. Wallach is 1 for 4, representing the tying run with Raines at first. Fouled away. Wallach flied to right, flied to left, single to center, and hit into a force play. He's the boy who fractured his ankle and his toe last year. But he is a very tough hitter. He is one of 3 National League players to hit more than 18 home runs and have more than 70 RBIs each of the last 5 years. Last year, 18 home runs, 71 RBIs. 1-1. Bouncer up the middle. Pedrique can't get it, and Raines will keep on going. And Mookie throws into Backman because he doesn't want the tying run to get to second base. So Wallach bounces one up the middle, and the Expos are in business. First and third, nobody out. Galarraga, Fitzgerald, and Law do up. The Expos now have 13 hits, but they're down by 2. Galarraga could have a perfect day. He is 3 for 4. The one time the Mets retired him, it was in the 5th inning, a diving catch by Darryl Strawberry. Galarraga hitting .325. Right. On deck, Mike Fitzgerald. And as a high chopper, Pedrique is going to have to hurry to first. It is in time. Oh! What a close play. Take a look at this one.
He had to throw off balance because it hit that plate. And let's see. Oh, brother. Whew. I think Dave Palone's had a tough day.
Yes.
That ball was in the air when his foot was on the bag.
So the tying run is at second base with 1 out. And the Mets were fortunate to get the out at all. And it is 6-5 in favor of the Mets. Fitzgerald now trying to pick up the tying run. That's Wallach. Ball 1. Fitzgerald hit into the double play in the 7th inning, coming off the bench to bat for John Stefaro. So the ex-Met trying to come back now and hurt them. After Fitzgerald, Vance Law. There's the ace, Orozco. They were hoping not to use him. Doug Sisk had elbow surgery in September of '85. In a tough road back for him. In there, 2-1. Sisk had 1 save last year. One thing Sisk did do, however, and he worked over 70 innings, he did not allow a home run. 2-1. Ground ball hard to third. Good play by Howard Johnson to throw him out. So the tying run remains anchored at second base. So Vance Law Trying to get Tim Wallach home from second. 6-5 Mets with 2 out in the 9th. Vance Law has walked twice, singled to right, and flied to right. When he went the other way, he was going against David Cone. He's the leading home run hitter for Montreal with 4, although certainly that is not his big strength. Strike on the corner. 0-1. The count of Vance Law. Seesaw ball game. Expos led 3-0. Mets led 4-3. Then it was tied. Mets led 6-4. And now the Expos have cut it close. The Mets lead 6-5. Tim Raines, along with Andres Galarraga. They put on quite a show. To Vance Law. In the dirt. Good save by Carter. 1 ball and 1 strike. Interesting, the umpire and the hitter not even looking at that ball, even though it was in the dirt. A lot of other ballparks, they throw that thing out. So we'll see what Sisk does now. 1-1 to Vance Law. Bouncer up the middle. Base hit. Wallach scores. Overrunning the ball is Mookie Wilson. And Law goes to second in a 6-6 tie.
Mookie just didn't come up with it. It looked like he was just going to play the big hop, and all of a sudden got by him, and in the scoring position goes Vance Law. And now Davies coming out. He's got to bring in his ace. Law was trying to go at least to the right side. Got it inside, sent it back up the middle. Couldn't even knock it down to keep the run from scoring. And with the ball getting by, he's on at second base. And now Davy Johnson has to bring in his left-hander, Orozco.
And, of course, all you have to do is look back to the ground ball hit by Raines to Pedrique to realize that had a tremendous effect on the inning.
These are the hands of Mr. Goodwrench.
Orozco coming in his 9th game. And this has really been a wild open game with the Expos leading 3-0, the Mets 4-3, then 4-4, then the Mets leading 6-4, and the Expos getting 2 in the 9th to tie it up. Dave Engel will come off the bench to bat for Tom Foley. So you have Engel followed by Reed Nichols. Dave Engel was the boy. Remember, we were saying what an odd thing it was to see somebody practicing swinging the bat in the bullpen. Now he has practiced enough and he puts it on the line. So Engel with Law at second and 2 out in the 9th in a 6-6 tie. Away. Dave Engel is the fellow whose wife Cindy was expecting, and the doctor, the obstetrician gynecologist, was a big Pete Rose fan. So Cindy asked Dave if you'd get Pete Rose's autograph, the doctor has guaranteed we'll have a boy. So Dave Engel, embarrassed, but he went over to Pete Rose and got Pete's autograph and gave it to the doctor. They had a bouncing baby girl.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Engel at the plate, 0-1. Looking for an angle. Engel. On the corner, strike 2. So Jesse with the count 0-2. So the Expos squandered a lead, wouldn't quit, and have come back to tie it up in the 9th. Spearheaded by Tim Raines. It was Raines' ground ball to Pedrique. He wouldn't quit and legged it out for a hit. Otherwise, they're done. They're in the clubhouse now with a loss.
And if Galarraga is called safe, you don't know what goes on.
No balls and 2 strikes to Dave Engel. Six tie in the top of the 9th inning. One ball and 2 strikes. In the Mets dugout, quiet and peaceful. Buck Rogers a little dry. And for Mel Stottlemyre, he's seen a parade of pitchers. Cone, Leach, Walter, Sisk, and now Orozco. And they've let several leads get away. 1 and 2. Got him. So Engel strikes out as Orozco restores order. The tying run is left at second base, and the Expos have tied it up 6-6. Right now, let's go to golf, the Panasonic Las Vegas Invitational. And all they have for it is a tie. And with Tim Raines coming up, Raines has 2 singles, a triple, a walk, a stolen base. He has scored twice, and the only time they got him was a dazzling play by Tim Tuffle. What a day he's had, and now he has a chance to really take things in charge. Raines and then Wallach. Ball 1.
Run over the whole plate, Jesse.
All the heat on Orozco now. Winningham at first, Candell at second, and Nichols at third. High drive into deep left field. McReynolds watching. Would you believe a grand slam for Tim Raines? That has to be one of the most incredible stories of the year in any sport. The first day back.
To be one of those stories, if you wrote it for television, they say that's too corny. It'll never work. Can you imagine that? And boy, I'm telling you, look at those Montreal Expos. Are really not only high fives there on the bench, they're just waiting for him, and they're bowing to him and everything else. What a way to break in.
So Tim Raines has a walk, 2 singles, a triple, a grand slam home run, and a stolen base.
Somebody's going to get hurt getting stuck in the gate leaving the park. They are just going in droves.